Aaron Pickett, and I'm a librarian here at the East Brunswick Public Library. One of the things I love to do at the library is teach kids how to cook. We do cooking programs all the way from kindergarten all the way up to high school, so it's something we love doing. So since we can't do cooking in the library, I'm going to do cooking in my own house and show you how you can make something while you're at home. So the first thing we're going to be doing today is crepes. Now, crepes may sound like a scary thing, but they're really, really easy to make. And the great thing about crepes is they can be sweet, they can be savory, which means you can have like fillings like mushrooms or cheese. You know, it's delicious. You can really do all sorts of things with them. So today we're going to show you how to make them. They also only use 5 ingredients, so that's really great. They are involving milk, and you can use any milk you have in the house, eggs, flour, a pinch of salt, and a pinch of sugar. That's it. So very easy to make, very few ingredients. It's going to be tasty. So do you know what we do before you start cooking though? That's right, we wash our hands. So we're going to go wash our hands, and when we have clean hands, we'll get back and get to cooking. See you then. Now that we're back with our clean hands, we're going to get started. All right, the recipe for crepes is very easy. You have 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of milk, and 3 eggs, and just a pinch of the other 2 ingredients. So we're going to start with the flour. So we are going to use a 1/2 cup measuring cup today, okay? So we need 1 cup of flour. So do you know how many half cups it takes to make 1 cup? That's right. You didn't know there's going to be a math pop quiz in it. So think about it. That's right, 2. 2 half cups equals 1 cup of flour. So I'm going to take a big scoop of flour, and it's important you have like a nice even half cup of flour. So I'm going to take this knife, and I'm going to sort of smooth along the edge, get all the extra flour off. Perfect. Exactly half cup. So I'm going to put that in. 1/2 cup. I'm going to do that one more time. There we go. Perfect. 1 cup of flour. Now I'm going to put this aside. I'll be right back with the next ingredient. All right. The next ingredient we're going to use is milk. And again, I'm using organic whole milk, but if you have 2% skim, even if you have a non-dairy milk, that's great. You can totally use whichever milk you have in your house at the time. So we're going to do 1 cup of milk. So we'll pour till it's just about 1 cup. Perfect. All right. So the next thing we're going to do, we're not going to add the milk right away. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to be adding our eggs. And again, we need 3 eggs. So instead of adding the eggs directly, I'm going to add them to a small bowl first, just in case we get shells and then when we crack them. So here we go. Now, if this is something you don't know how to do, you can have your parents show you, or maybe an older sibling. Don't worry, it takes a while to get cracking eggs down. All right, so we have 1 egg. Dump that in. Okay, 2nd egg, dump that in. And 1 last egg. Whoops, I didn't crack this one very well, so there may be a shell in there, so let me sort of get that shell out. That's why it's always good to crack into a bowl first, because if there are any shells, it gives you a chance to get them out before you mix in with the rest of the ingredients. Does that look good? Yep. Great. So there we go. So now we have our last 2 ingredients. So I'm going to be back in just 1 second to show you what those are. All right, our last 2 things are going to be salt and sugar. Now you're just going to have a little bit of each of these just to give a little bit more flavor. So I say it's a pinch. So what's a pinch? It's less than a tablespoon, it's less than a teaspoon. It's really what it sounds like. You take your fingers, you pinch some sugar, and you drop it in. Now, if you really like sugar, you can do a really big pinch, or maybe 2 pinches, which is what I'm going to do. So a couple pinches in there. All right. And then salt. So I'm going to pour some salt out in my hand. And again, this is kosher salt, but you can use whatever salt you have. Take a pinch, just like this, and drop it in. And that is that. So now we're ready to mix our crepes. I'll show you how to do that. I just have a fork. You can use whatever you have. If you have a whisk at home, you can even use a blender for this. I'm just going to whip these just a little bit to break up the egg yolks. try not to get too much outside of my container. Right. That looks pretty good. All right. Now we're going to be dumping this, which again, this has 1 cup of milk, 3 eggs, and a pinch of sugar and salt into the 1 cup of flour. And now we're just gonna whisk this up until there are no lumpy flour bits remaining. And again, if you have a hand mixer or if you have a food processor and blender, you can use whatever you have at home to do this. I'm just gonna use this fork. I'm gonna beat it up. How does that look? So it's a little bit like pancake batter, if you've ever made pancakes, although this is just a little bit looser than that. It's a little bit wetter. And again, there's only a few ingredients, which probably a lot of people have at their houses right now, so that's great. So there we go. So this looks like it's beat up pretty well. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna let the batter sit for about 30 minutes or an hour. You can even let it sit overnight. If you do that, make sure you put it in the refrigerator though, because you do have milk and eggs in there. And what that does is that just lets the crepes be that much more tender. So I'm gonna let this sit for a little bit, and when it's ready to cook them, we'll get back together and I'll show you how we can do that. Sounds great? Great, see you then. All right, now that our batter has set for a little bit, it's ready to go. The next thing to do is we're actually going to cook our crepes. Now, if you're a younger kid, you may need your parents' help with this. The first thing we're going to do is take a large skillet. Okay, take a large skillet out, and we're going to turn our the oven on about medium high. The stove on about medium high. Okay, we'll put the skillet on there. Again, if you're a young kid, get your parents' help with this. All right. We're going to let this warm up for about a minute or two, and now I'm going to show you some of the things you can put in your crepes. So while we're waiting for our crepe batter to set for a little bit, I was going to show you some of the fillings you can put in. So again, you can make the fillings sweet or savory. On the sweet side, you can always start with confectioner sugar or lemon juice. This is a classic crepe topping. If you are feeling like chocolate, you can always put some chocolate chips in there while you're cooking them, melt them, maybe even some peanut butter. I love putting jam. I have some lingonberry jam here and some fig jam here. So all these are delicious sweet things. Really anything that you like that's sweet, you can put inside a crepe. But if you're not feeling like you want something sweet, or if you want crepes for dinner, you can make savory things. So for example, you could like chop up some mushrooms and saute them and put them in your crepes. You can grate some cheese. You can even put some eggs in there if you wanted to. If you wanted like breakfast taco crepes, you can make that. Or you can use real sausage, veggie sausage. I use veggie sausage, but you can use whatever you want to. Or really anything. The crepes, you can really put anything you want to in them. So these are some things I usually put in them. So again, see what you feel like. So again, when we come back, I'm going to show you how to cook a crepe, which is really easy. All right, see you in a second. Oh, there's so many good things you can put in your crepes, right? All right, so the last thing you actually do is actually make the crepes. So now that our skillet's a little warm, all right, the first thing you're going to do is put a little bit of butter in the skillet and let it melt. I'm just cutting up a little piece of butter, putting it in, and you can see it melting in the skillet. Right. Okay. So once the butter is melted, you're going to take a little bit of your batter and you're going to pour just a little bit. You don't want to put tons of batter in here because we want your crepe to be very thin at the end. So pour just a little bit. And then you take your pan and you spin it around to spread out that crepe batter. Spread out that crepe batter. And if you have a non-stick spatula like I do, you can sort of use it to kind of scrape some of your extra crepe batter off to the side to make your crepe even bigger and even thinner. And you can see your crepe is pretty quickly cooking. If it looks liquidy, it's not cooked yet, but parts like this, which are a little bit more yellow, that means the crepe's cooked all the way through. It really only takes about 30 seconds to a minute per side to cook that crepe. So it does not take long at all, which is great because you're going to want to make a lot of them. So once it looks like mainly done, you take your spatula, you put it underneath, and you flip it. Oh, look how delicious that crepe looks. And when you're cooking the second side, it only takes maybe about 10-15 seconds. Like, as soon as you see it start poofing up like this, you know your crepe is done. So then you get your plate that's been waiting, you take your spatula, and you plop it onto your plate. Now you're ready to put all the delicious fillings in it. All right, so if you want to put fillings in your crepes, like chocolate chips, peanut butter, anything that melts, this is how you do it. You start cooking your crepe like you would ordinarily, okay? So cook it on one side. So this crepe needs a little bit more to cook, okay? Once the one side is cooked over, you're going to flip it over, and then you're going to sprinkle some chocolate chips or whatever else you want to melt. Yeah. So I'm going to flip this crepe over. All right, so once one side is done, I'm going to take some chocolate chips. I have white chocolate chips today. Sprinkle some on just on one side. Okay, and use your spatula and fold it over. So what this is going to be doing is this is going to be melting all those delicious chocolate chips on the inside. Cook it for just a little bit. Flip it over one more time. And now all your chocolate chips should be melted and should be ready to eat. Great. Look at this. We have an entire we have plates of crepes that we can eat today. So last thing I'm going to do is show you some different ways you can eat crepes. Now this is a classic way. This is the crepe I made with a white chocolate chip. So what I did is I folded it in half in the pan to cook it, and you fold it one more time so it's like a quarter circle. This is one of the classic ways to eat crepes, and you can eat them like this if you want to. Another way to eat crepes is to roll them up. So I'm going to put in a little bit of powdered sugar, which I love on crepes. Take fresh squeeze of lemon and squeeze a little bit of that on the crepes. And then you can roll it up just like this. And you can eat a crepe like this too. Finally, the way I like eating crepes at home is by making what I like to call crepe tacos. So crepe tacos is when you have like 3 or 4 crepes you've made at the stove. Perhaps you're letting other people eat crepes while you're making them, so your crepes are just sitting up, not being eaten. So I like spreading some things like lingonberries, which are a delicious type of fruit. Maybe sprinkle a little bit of powdered sugar on them, a little bit of lemon, and then folding them in half like a big taco and eating it just like this. Really, whatever way you eat crepes, they're going to taste delicious. So I hope you enjoyed this cooking video, how to make crepes. I'd love to see some of the crepes you make, and I can't wait to see you again next time we're cooking in Aaron's kitchen. Thanks again, guys, and see you soon. Mmm.